requires. There's a lot of very well-respected reporting now in the United States that uses phrases like cover-up, that talks about widespread concerns. And you yourself say in the book, it shouldn't have been a choice for an individual's ego.
I do reflect on whether I should have had a conversation with him, urging him not to run for re-election because of what that would require, and given the stakes, most importantly. Because, as you know, I predicted just about everything that has now happened since the election.
And we'll come to that.
And so my concern, and especially on reflection, is should I have actually raised it? But as I've also written, part of the issue there was that it would it have actually been an effective and productive conversation, given what would otherwise appear to be my self-interest.
Boy. So we got to talk about more bad news for the Democrat Party, because loser Kamala Harris refuses to go away. She's doing the exact same thing that the other Democrat Party grifters are doing, particularly the individuals that work for the Biden administration, which is they're trying to make a quick buck off the backs of the disaster that was the Biden administration by peddling books that nobody's going to read, okay? And one of the reasons why nobody should read these books is because these people are lying, right? They're gaslighting. They're not being completely honest about the most important questions that everybody has about that administration and what happened behind the scenes. Why is it that those who were closest to Joe Biden, that spent the most time around him, why is it that they did not say anything about Biden's cognitive decline? Why did they cover up Biden's cognitive decline? Now, keep in mind, Kamala Harris is particularly under the microscope because she defended Biden after the debate in which Biden fell apart for the world to see, but yet she, on CNN, pretended as if it was out of bounds to question whether or not Biden was still mentally fit enough to run for office and to be president of the United States.
What we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump. What became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong. And
I'm sorry,
that
on
cannot
substance
be
and
debated.
policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. One said it was a disaster, another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5 hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But
whether
is that
it be
the man who we
the
saw
former
on the
guy,
stage
the other
tonight,
guy,
is that
the other guy on the debate stage, the person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5 years, up until today. So I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
1 year later.
Say President Biden pulling out should not have been a choice for an individual ego or an individual's ambition. Do you feel that you were deliberately kept in the dark about what was going on and how much he was struggling behind the scenes?
What I have written is what I believe, which is, one, we needed more time. There's no question about that. Two, there were many factors that contributed to the outcome of that election. But being mindful of the fact that there were extraordinary people who were involved in those 107 days in building up an inordinate amount for the time that we had, enthusiasm and, dare I say, joy around the possibility for our country.
And that comes across, but the context here, I think, at this historical moment you talk about is so important because there had been months of speculation around the world, here in the UK too, even in April, long before President Biden pulled out. We asked Nancy Pelosi what was going wrong. This was a huge subject of discussion. And you write that President Biden didn't raise his frailty with you, and you write that you didn't really raise it with him. That's extraordinary to read in your account.
Well,
Is
let's
it because
be
you were
more precise. There is a very serious difference between capacity to be president of the United States and the capacity to run for president of the United States. And so it is on that latter piece that I talk about in the book, about my concern about his ability with the level of endurance, energy that it requires, especially running against now the current president.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
So that is what I speak of in the book, and you rightly point out that I, in reflection, realize that, I ask, was it on my behalf grace or recklessness to not raise the point with him about whether it was right for him to run? But let's be clear, my question was never about his capacity to be president.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Once again, we have word salad vomit here from Kamala Harris and Democrats associated with the Biden administration trying to weasel their way through the question that, again, everybody has, which is that, hey, you guys work with this dude every single day. Why did you not say anything? Okay? Why is it that you participated in the cover-up? These people refuse to actually really answer the question in an honest way. In this situation, you have Kamala Harris trying to have her cake and eat it too. What she's trying to do is that she's trying to acknowledge that, I did have questions about whether or not Joe Biden was fit to run, but I didn't have questions about whether or not he was fit to be president, okay? Now, there's a distinction there that she's trying to make. She's trying to say, well, I acknowledge that there's some problems, right? Or there may have been some problems with Joe Biden's age and that, it probably should not have been left to his ego in regards to whether or not he was going to continue to run, okay? But I've never questioned whether or not he could actually be president. Now, the problem with this is that I don't understand how you can argue that you had questions about whether or not Biden should run or his ability to run, but you didn't have questions about his ability to be president of the United States. Because if he can't run, right, if he doesn't have the ability to run, if you don't think that he can run, then why would you think he can be president, right? I think that, for me personally, it should be easier to run, right, than to actually be president, okay? I mean, I understand that there's a lot of energy required. There's a lot of planning, organization. There's a lot of stuff involved when it comes to running for president of the United States. But I can imagine that the job of being president of the United States is just as hard, if not harder. If he can't run, then he can't be president, right? But again, what she's trying to do is that she's trying to clear her name in the same way that the mainstream liberal media, Jake Tapper, and some other Democrats as well, too, some other people that were associated with the administration. They're trying to clear their names and try to pretend as if, they weren't completely covering up Joe Biden's mental decline, or that they didn't lie to the United States of America about the cognitive abilities of the president of the United States, when clearly they did, right? Because Kamala cannot come out here with a straight face and tell us that she should be president and that she has good judgment, but yet you believe that Biden should be president, that he should have ran, right? You can't tell us that with a straight face. So again, she's trying to kind of, thread the needle. And in my opinion, just like cringe Jean-Pierre, Kamala's answer here is incoherent, just like it is incoherent in regards to her answer to the question about why she lost, okay? She continues to claim, well, I didn't have enough time.
reflected on whether you wish you'd had that conversation with President Biden, urging him to pull out. In the end, it took other people's voices, and even George Clooney writing an article in a newspaper saying it was time to pull the plug. Is it your belief that you would now be president if Joe Biden had pulled out earlier?
I can't speculate about that. I do know we needed more time, that I'm sure of.
But if you needed more time, you might have won, and you might therefore be president right now if he had pulled out earlier.
That's speculation.
Well, that's the logic of what you're saying. You're saying if you'd had more time, you might have won.
I can't predict what the outcome would have been, but I am certain we needed more time, 107 days, to run for president of the United States against a former president of the United States in this political environment, with, as I also have written, the vast amount of mis and disinformation. And for those 107 days, they worked around the clock and left everything on the table, everything on the field.
And when it comes to your campaign, you've already said the buck stops with you.
Indeed.
You had massively successful rallies, you had a crazy number of celebrity endorsements, you had Oprah Winfrey turning out for you, you had Taylor Swift backing you. But there's little in the book about why you feel you didn't connect with ordinary voters, those people in the middle who could have gone either way. And indeed, during the campaign, Gen Z and Latinos in some numbers moved across to Trump. You stayed in your comfort zone, didn't you? That was the Democrats' problem.
I received 75 million votes from a variety of people.
But in the Electoral College, you were far outdone.
I'm not finished. I received 75 million votes from people around the nation of every stripe, whether it be geographic location, race, gender, and age. And it is true, however, and I also reflect and write on that for probably a decade, Democrats have been losing certain sectors of society. And there's work that we need to get done.
But why didn't it connect with working people?
Well, it did connect with working people, but clearly there was more work to be done.
But why?
Because we needed more time to talk with more people, and we have to understand the context, which is that if you look at the trends that had been in play, probably at least since, if not before, 2016, you were seeing for the Democratic Party that there was a shift taking place among the demographics you have mentioned. And that's work that needs to be done, and that's work that I and others are working on.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that. Now, you would think that after a year, okay, after losing the election to Trump and going on this book tour, that she would have cleaned up these word salads, right? That she would be able to give a coherent answer to questions, but apparently she's still struggling, okay? I think what she's saying is that she lost because she didn't have enough time, right? Not because she ran a bad campaign, not because, her campaign was very inauthentic. She tried to pretend to be a moderate, even though she was not a moderate, because of Biden's policies, her policies, being terrible for this country. No, it wasn't any of that. I just needed more time to push my propaganda on the American people, right? I needed more time. And it's like, is that really why you lost Kamala, right? Because you needed more time? Really? Are you serious right now? That is the biggest criticism that you have of your campaign in regards to why you lost, why I didn't have enough time? I'm not buying it, right? I'm just not buying it, especially considering how when she first got in the race, she got a big boost from the mainstream media gassing her up as the next coming, right? As the best thing since sliced bread. And at one point, it looked like Kamala Harris was going to win, right? But the more that she talked to the American people, the more interviews that she did, okay, the more that she got out there, that is when her poll numbers started to decline, right? This is why they were hiding her for the first month of her campaign, because they knew that she was not good at interviews, that the more that the American people heard from her, the more they wouldn't like her. And that's exactly what happened, because in late September, October, again, a month before the election, that is when her poll numbers really started to fall off, when she actually started to do some real interviews, when she was actually getting her message out there to the American people. That's when she really started to decline, okay? Turns out putting lipstick on a pig doesn't change the fact that it's still a pig, right? And the American people saw that. And that's why I just don't buy into this idea. Like, this is just straight cope. Well, I needed more time. I just needed more time. I need more time. It's like, nah. Actually, if you had less time, you probably would have done better, right? The longer that you stayed in a race, the worse that you got, okay? This is the same thing that happened to Kamala Harris during the Democrat primary in 2019, okay? Initially, when she got in the race, she was one of the front runners, right? One of the favorites to win a Democrat primary in 2019. But when the American people actually heard from her, right, that debate between her and Tulsi Gabbard, when Tulsi dismantled Kamala Harris on stage for the world to see, that is when even Democrat Party voters was like, nah, we're good on Kamala, right? We don't really vibe with you like that. So, again, this is just pure delusion, right? Just like Chris Jean-Pierre. Nothing but delusion in COPE. And this is the real reason why she didn't, quote-unquote, have enough time, because the Democrat establishment knew that she was going to lose. The Democrat establishment decided that, you know what? We'd rather take our chances on a mentally declining Joe Biden, right? We'd rather take our chances on him rather than Kamala Harris. I remember all the reports coming out about how Democrats had lost faith in Kamala Harris, that the Biden administration had lost faith in Kamala Harris. She was supposed to take over. She was supposed to be the next one up But she was so incompetent. She was so bad at her job that the Democrat elites decided, nah, we're good. We'd rather roll with Biden than Kamala. And that's the real reason why Biden ran for re-election and Kamala didn't take over, is because the Democrat elite did not have any faith in her, okay? If they had any faith in her, Biden would have been pulled a long time ago. He would have been pulled in 2023. They would have been like, all right, we're done. Biden, you can't run again. Kamala has to take over. But because Kamala is so bad, they knew that Kamala would lose, right? Even Biden thought that Kamala would lose, right? Everybody knew that Kamala would lose. They was like, you know what? We'd rather roll the dice with Biden, okay? And it was only after the debate that Democrats decided, you know what? We kind of have to go with Kamala because Biden is in that bad of a shape, right? That Kamala might be better than Joe Biden at this point. That's what really happened, okay? And even more evidence to support the idea that, again, this is delusion and cope. Kamala is indicating that she may not be done, right? That she might run for president again, which is probably the last thing that Democrats want to hear.
Let's talk then about what's next for you and also what's changed in your life since then. Donald Trump stripped you of your Secret Service protection at a time when there had been attempts on his life. Of course, there have been other political killings in the US, most notably recently the killing of Charlie Kirk. Has Donald Trump's decision put you in danger?
I feel safe.
Why do you think he did it?
You'll have to ask him.
Well, you must have thought about it.
Well, I mean, he did it because ultimately today, Kamala Harris is not entitled to Secret Service for an extended amount of time, right? I mean, she's only entitled to it for, I believe, 6 months or something like that. And Trump actually was very generous because he gave her more time than what she was actually entitled to as vice president. Okay, so him stripping her of Secret Service protection is a nothing burger, right? It's just him doing what otherwise would have happened had Biden not extended her Secret Service protection beyond what she's entitled to.
You have to ask him. I don't pretend to know why people do what they do on a daily basis.
In terms then of what is next for you, you write very powerfully about the differences that many women have made to your life, whether that was your meeting with Angela Merkel or the experience of growing up with your extraordinary mother or the stories of your baby nieces, Amara and Leela. When are they going to see a woman in charge in the White House?
In their lifetime, for sure.
Could it be you?
Possibly.
Have you made a decision yet?
No, I have not.
What about running again as someone else's vice president or maybe being part of another ticket? If Gavin Newsom, your fellow Californian, said, hey, come and be my Secretary of State, would you consider that?
Right now I'm focused on my book tour. And I'm glad to know that you read it 3 times.
I did. I read it 3 times because it's a great read.
Thank you.
But you say in your book, I'm not done.
That is correct. I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service. And it's in my bones. And there are many ways to serve. I've not decided yet what I will do in the future beyond what I am doing right now, which is meeting with many people. Obviously, right now I'm in the UK, but otherwise I've been spending a lot of time in our country. Most recently, I was spending an incredible amount of time in the South. I was in Georgia, North Carolina, and Alabama, and talking with people and mostly listening, and I'm enjoying doing that. I think that people want to be heard right now. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that I decided not to run for governor of California, I want to listen to people without it being transactional, without asking people for their vote, but listening to them. I think the American people have a lot to say right now.
But you've been very clear that it's a possibility you might run again to become president. And in my experience interviewing politicians, when someone says, I'm not done, it means they are thinking seriously about running. But when you look at the bookies' odds, they put you as an outsider, even behind Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, is that underestimating you?
I think there are all kinds of polls that will tell you a variety of things. I've never listened to polls. If I listened to polls, I would have not run for my first office or my second office, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview.
So your message to supporters at the end of the book was, we fought, if you fight, you win. You fought and you lost. But next time...
No, my message is, as you would have read in the last few chapters, was yes, I do believe that when you fight, you win, but sometimes the fight takes a while. That was my message.
While I concede this election,
I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Let's close with a couple of fun things, if I can squeeze them.
So you seen that, you heard that. Kamala here is indicating that she may not be done. I personally think that she's done, right? I really don't think she's going to run. And part of the reason why I don't think she's going to run is because I don't think she has the juice. I don't think that, despite her being a progressive, she is a progressive, okay? She was one of the most progressive members of the Senate, okay, when she was in the Senate. And again, you know, the Democrats they're progressive. They're socialist at this point, right? I don't think she's going to run because ultimately today, she's just not a very good or talented politician, right? She's struggling heavily to answer basic questions without going into these word salads. But if she does want to run, be my guest, right? Be my guest. If she ends up winning the Democrat primary, which does not look like she has a good chance of winning. I mean, look at this right here, right? She has less of a chance than Pete Buttigieg, right? AOC and Gavin Newsom. She has the same chances as Josh Shapiro, John Ossoff, Wes Moore, Andy Bashir. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is competitive with Kamala Harris at this point. If she happens to win a Democrat primary, then I don't think that she has a snowball's chance in hell of winning a general election, right? I think that Kamala Harris is cooked. I think she's cooked, and it's really embarrassing considering how she was sitting vice president. Okay, if you're sitting vice president, you know, it's kind of assumed that you're next up, right? If you decide that you want to run. And Kamala, again, is just so bad, right? She's so terrible that most people have basically concluded that it would be a bad idea for her to run in 2028, okay? And we're going to see. But, again, this is good news for Republicans, right? If she decides that she wants to run and ultimately she ends up winning the Democrat primary, I think that she would get landslided in 2028. I don't think she's changed a damn thing. She seems to double and triple down on delusion, okay, and gaslighting. And if that is what Kamala is going to be leading with when you talk about her comeback, then I don't think that is going to go well for her, right, to be honest with you. But we will see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.